Okay, so for today, the instruction said find a value that completes the squared and then rewrite as a perfect square. Then I see on your homework, the way you guys should see, first of all, there's a box that you guys have to answer. There's an answer that goes in there. And then you guys have a parenthesis squared, and then you guys have another answer in there. So it's asking for two answers because in reality, if we read the instructions, there are two questions. First question says find a value that completes the square. Then there's the word and then the second question says rewrite as a perfect square. So I remembered on the homework from yesterday, we learned how to find the C value that completed the square. Remember, we were talking about that yesterday. And what I did, I remember we started with something like r squared minus 4r plus, remember how yesterday we used to have a little c there? Now, if you guys recall, the way we did the work yesterday was looking at the number in the center, in this case, -4, I divide it by 2. Remember, I get the half of the -4. So in this case, will be -2. And then I square this. -2 times -2 will give us +4. Okay, so that is a value that completes the square. That will be my first answer. Because remember how the first question says, find a value that completes the square? That is my first answer, 4. Then at the bottom, it says, complete the square. Write it as a perfect square. Now, I know last time on the homework assignment as yesterday, on the first assignment, reality, I showed you guys an example on what I meant with completing the square. Now, r squared minus 4r plus 4, the statement r squared minus 4r plus 4 really factors to two parentheses that are the same, and the factor will be r minus 2. You guys see where I got the -2, right? And notice how it's the same number when I square this, so that's why I have it twice. Now, r minus 2, the parentheses squared, couldn't we just write that as one parentheses, r minus 2, all squared? Well, notice how that is really what I'm asking on the second part. I already have the parentheses, I already have the squared. I'm just asking you to fill in the center of that parentheses. In this case, it will be r minus 2. That's it. That's it for question number 9. So an assignment on our homework would look like this. Let's take a look at question number 10. I know I have to answer two things. There's a value that completes the square, and then there's a parentheses squared, and it's asking me to complete the inside of the parentheses. So the way I do this, I'm looking at this as x squared minus 36x plus c. Kind of like how the work from yesterday looked like. And then I think of the half of -36. The half of -36 happens to be -18. -18 squared, so -18 times a -18 happens to be 324. So that is the value that completes the squared. So my first answer here is 324. Now let me rewrite this as a perfect squared. I'm going to call this x minus 18. Now notice on question number 9, I used the letter r, because notice how the variable for number 9 was r. For number 10, the variable is x. So I can change it to any letter that I wish, and that's the letter we're going to type in. The -18, that was basically the half of -36. You guys see how we wrote it twice? In reality, what I'm saying here is that x minus 18 times x minus 18, so x minus 18 all squared, if we multiply it, it will give us x squared minus 36x plus 324. Feel free to pause the video and check it. You guys will go x times x times negative 18 times x, and negative 18 times negative 18. Combine your like terms, and you guys will see that you do finish with x squared minus 36x plus 324. Okay, now let's take a look at number 11. First, I start asking myself, okay, x squared plus 38x plus c. What will be the value that completes this square? So I think, well, the half of 38 is 19. And I know 19 times 19, I know that's 361. So the value that completes the squared is 361. Now, for me to write this as a perfect squared, I know we'll have to do a parentheses all squared, which is already there. I see a space inside the parentheses. So all I have to do is complete the inside of the parentheses. Since my variable is x, I'm going to use an x. Since my number that I squared is positive 19, I'm going to write this as x plus 19. Notice I'm using the 19 with the symbol, the sign, positive or negative. Okay, let's take a look at number 12. I have to first find a value that completes the squared, and then I have to rewrite as a perfect square. The parentheses squared is already there for me. I just have to write what's inside the parentheses. So then I start thinking, well, z squared minus 32z plus the extra value, kind of like how we did yesterday. So I start thinking, well, negative 32 divided by 2 gives me negative 16, right? The half of negative 2 is negative 16. Negative 16 squared is 256. So the value that completes the squared is 256. The way I will write this as a perfect squared is z minus 16 all squared.